Hello friends, Hansen here. Welcome back to Ant Media. So I wanted to cover, this is obviously the first episode of the DualShock Debrief. I wanted to go ahead and let you know that the first episode is kind of whack. I initially hired an editor for this episode of the DualShock Debrief because I wanted it to be high quality and I wanted it to be a really great first outing for the series. And long story short, the editor just kept pushing back the deadlines and eventually just canceled on me. And I never got back the edited video. I got a refund and everything, and it was only $30, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. But yeah, anyways, I wanted it to be high quality. It didn't work out, which sucks because now like there's this weird lapse and like we don't have this uploaded when I'd like it to be uploaded, and it's just kind of weird. And I'd like this to be a recurring series that I have going forward, and just a fun thing that I do on the channel. It's a fun video. I enjoy making it, and yeah, it just sucks that, it's not going to be a comprehensive video experience because like my idea with this video is that, you have my analysis and commentary and thoughts or whatever layered on top of like a pretty well edited and comprehensive video that shows you kind of what I'm talking about. But anyways, like as always, you could just listen to this. I know it's just an audio file with a thumbnail, which is really annoying because I hate when content creators do that because it's just kind of lazy, but I understand why people do it. But anyways, want to make sure it's here just for posterity's sake. So that way, like, if you look at my channel, there's not a weird like lapse in like, where is the first episode of this series that's been going on for a while. You know what I mean? But I just want it to be here. You could just listen to it if you want. I'm not going to go in and edit and do all that stuff because that's just a ton of work for a video where like the news is essentially now irrelevant and all of that stuff. So anyways, I'm going to post it, just have the thumbnail. I'm not going to do any audio or I'm not going to do any video editing or anything like that. It's just going to be my analysis and commentary. But I'm just going to have it here so that like, for historical context, the first episode of the series is technically here, but it's not really here. So anyways, long story short, sorry about that. Kind of outside of my control, but this is what you get when you try to outsource stuff to people. Sometimes is like sometimes things fall through the cracks, so it's just kind of like what happens. But yeah. Anyways, gonna post this. That's all I got, boys. This is Hansen with Ant Media out. Hello, friends. Hansen here. Welcome to the maiden voyage of the DualShock Debrief, my weekly PlayStation analysis video where I analyze the general video game news of the week with a focus on Sony's PlayStation. And before you say anything, yes, I know that the PlayStation controller is no longer called the DualShock, and it's now called the DualSense, but I don't care. The DualShock is a cooler name, so that's what we're rolling with. The DualShock Debrief goes live every Saturday at a mysterious time here on Ant Media, my video games analysis YouTube channel. Here on Ant, we also post a plethora of lengthy analysis videos as well as the occasional guide or let's play. Bottom line, if you love video games, you should just hit that subscribe button so we can bro out joystick in hand. And no, it's not like that. Get your head out of the gutter, you fucking troglodyte. Here's how the DualShock Debrief is going to work, fellas. I'm going to break this weekly PlayStation analysis video up into 3 delicious and digestible courses. I'm going to kick off the show with what I'll be calling the big one, where I'll analyze the single biggest piece of video game news from this week, PlayStation be damned, if necessary. Then I'll move into the meat and potatoes of the video, where I'll do my damnedest to analyze and assess the ass cheeks off of PlayStation to not only try to explain what's going on and why they're doing what they're doing, but to also soothsay, as it were, or perhaps as it will be. I'll do this by breaking down each of the hot button news items of the week and entertaining you with my analytical glut. And finally, we'll conclude each episode of the DualShock Debrief with a freeball discussion of what games I'm playing and what I think about them. And I will add here as an interstitial that this is subject to change based off of your feedback, so please let me know what you think, and please know that you can't hurt my feelings. Is that clear as mud? Great, let's roll. The biggest hoo-ha of the video game industry this week was created by the announcement of the nominees for the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's high-quality awards show where he annually simps for Hideo Kojima, as is his right, and as he should be doing. Bottom line up front, an awesome remake of a legendary game from 2005 was nominated for Game of the Year in 2023 for some reason. A god-awful strategy game was nominated for Best Strategy Game. An esports coach that has yet to coach esports this year was nominated for Best Esports Coach. And a game that is clearly not an RPG was nominated for Best RPG. And once again, gamers on every front look like fucking idiots. And the Game Awards has, yet again, been represented as a dumpster fire, rather than the regal celebration of video games that it should be. In an apparent effort to address the blowback from these blatant misfires, Jeff Keighley tweeted the following, quote, "As a reminder, the games nominated at #TheGameAwards are selected by a global jury of 120 media outlets. I don't vote on the games, although I do have the pleasure of announcing the nominees to you!" Exclamation point. Keighley also tweeted the following, quote, "There have been so many great games in 2023. I wish we could get past the rhetoric that a game not nominated in a category is unworthy or bad. It simply didn't make the cutoff in a highly competitive year. Even if a game wasn't nominated, maybe it was number 6 or number 7 in voting. We will have our Player's Voice category coming up later this month too, where you'll get to 100% decide a winner for 30 nominees. Stay tuned for more details." I have to say, especially this second tweet is pretty tone deaf. And I also have to say, fellas, that I like Jeff Keighley. And I like the Game Awards. Hell, I even think the Game Awards are kind of awesome, but we gotta cut the bullshit. It's more self-evident than ever that the Game Awards is not an awards show first. It's a marketing platform that's quickly filled the power vacuum E3 left in its destruction. And it's a side that there's an in-crowd in games media. A people group that screeches words such as diversity and inclusion from the fucking rooftops. A group that also clearly doesn't know games, as this year's list is full of nominees that are objectively lackluster, confusing, and reeking of incompetence and noobishness. Look, man, I love Resident Evil 4. But Resident Evil 4 had its fucking time in the spotlight. That year was 2005, which was 18 years ago. The fact that this was nominated this year, the remake of Resident Evil 4 was nominated this year, the year of our Lord 2023, the best year of video games yet, is a travesty. When new great games that have impacted our culture that actually saw the light of day in 2023 and were conceived in 2023, such as Sea of Stars, Hi-Fi Rush, Starfield, or even, dare I say, The Light in the Darkness, which is a free game that tells an honest and heartfelt account of the Holocaust, that was met with glowing critical acclaim, they could have a spot on this list instead of Resident Evil 4. If I were the devs on those games, I'd be pissed. Not because Resident Evil 4 isn't a great game, or it's not even because it's one of the best gameplay experiences of the year, but because it's an incompetent shoo-in in a place where it has no real reason to exist. It's stupid. It's a sign that more people with more niche tastes in video games need to be voting for more niche video games. We clearly need this. There needs to be focused committees for categories such as strategy, role-playing, and fighting, given that Sifu was nominated as a fighting game at last year's Game Awards when it is self-evident that that is an action-adventure game of some sort. And above all else, we got to get the incompetent weirdos out of the positions of power within our industry. Incompetent weirdos should never hold power, because if they do, they will wield it incompetently and weirdly. Enough is enough, man. Jeff, you claimed this is a penultimate celebration of video games. The annual celebration of video games that rounds out the year in a very nice way. And clearly your system of nominating games is broken. And you got to fix it, dude. Every year we get more close to a more perfect Game Awards. But you picked the wrong year in video game history for these multiple nominations to just shit the bed. And once again, games media and gamers are painted as stupid people. And that's just kind of a shame for the best entertainment medium to have ever existed. And we all wonder why women hate gamers. Now that we're all nice and warmed up, we're going to move into the PlayStation news items. And we're going to begin by analyzing the centripetal piece of PlayStation news for the week. Number 1. On 15 November 2023, Sony PlayStation launched what is arguably their most simplistically genius piece of hardware yet, the PlayStation Portal, a handheld remote play device carrying all of the bells and whistles of Sony's goated DualSense controller, with the ability to remote control the player's PlayStation 5 from practically anywhere with a serviceable internet connection. And this is all for the highly attractive price point of $200. With the launch of the device being met with near universal acclaim and resounding commercial success, the PlayStation Portal appears to be a slam dunk from the kings of AAA console gaming. The device sold out within its first 2 days on the market. Reviewer Seth Macy from the world's biggest video game news outlet, IGN, who gave the machine a solid 8 out of 10 in his review, said the following about the second coming of the PSP. Quote, "The PlayStation Portal is the most surprising device I've ever come away from loving after going in loaded with skepticism. It's such a better experience than using your phone with a slap-on controller, and it works so much better than I was anticipating. I really love the freedom it gives me to play my PS5 from anywhere with decent Wi-Fi coverage, especially when the rest of my family was using the TV to, somewhat ironically, play the Switch. Bearing in mind that it's in no way a standalone device and 100% requires a PlayStation 5 to function at all, the biggest things keeping the Portal from being a truly amazing device are its current lack of way to access Wi-Fi that requires a web browser to log in, and its lack of Bluetooth support for audio. For now, it's a great device that represents the best current solution for PlayStation Remote Play, and if it weren't for those other two baffling caveats, I'd call this a must-own device for every PS5 owner who enjoys playing games on handheld, or has to compete for the household TV. End quote. Okay, gotta throw my thoughts out here about the PlayStation Portal. I think so. Generally speaking, PlayStation's goal is to have you, as a PlayStation gamer, on their device at all times. Because when you do that, you're not only going to be playing games, but you're going to be buying shit. And the more time you spend on your PlayStation, the more likely you are to buy things. So that is their goal. Now, the PlayStation Portal is, from my perspective, it's a genius idea. It's a very attractive price point, $200. You could easily see this being bundled in with a PlayStation 5 one day, and it's just $600, and it's a perfect companion device for your PlayStation 5. And then at all times, when you're just hanging out in your house, why would you not be playing your PlayStation? It's that simple. And we're getting to the point where remote play technology is getting so good that it really doesn't matter. Like, I know that technical snobs and people that like to play very demanding games that require very precise hand-eye coordination and tactile response, games like perhaps, I don't know, maybe Sekiro, or like an online shooter like Call of Duty or Destiny or something like that, not the best device. But if you're playing any of the first-party PlayStation releases that are just like single-player narrative games, this is totally serviceable. This is totally fine. And you're essentially getting a handheld experience of being able to play your PlayStation 5 from wherever you want. And I really think this is going to change the game. And it's going to catapult the PS5 from the great success that it's already experiencing, to historic success. And I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to get my hands on mine. I have a theory that I'm going to be getting one of these for Christmas for my wife. I haven't got one yet. But I can't wait to check this thing out. It's probably gonna keep me addicted in both good and bad ways. That's all I have to say. But nonetheless, congratulations to Sony. It seems like they had a very successful launch, and I can't wait to get my hands on one. Number 2. Naughty Dog has officially scored a much-needed W by officially confirming that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is real and is coming to PS5 in just over 2 months on January 19th, 2023. As humorous as it may be, the remastered base game seems to be the least interesting part of the package, as the game looks hardly distinguishable from that of its 2020 counterpart running natively on the PS5. But if that's your biggest takeaway from this announcement, you're making quite a blunder, and here's why. On top of all of the traditional bells and whistles of a Naughty Dog remaster, this game also features new skins for Ellie and Abby, a designated guitar playing mode that you'll remember as a seminal storytelling mechanic in the PS4 version of the game, and most interestingly, cut content that has been stitched into the base game in an all-new roguelike survival mode entitled No Return. Jonathan Dornbush, who you probably don't remember from IGN's podcast Beyond, but who now serves as the editorial content manager at Naughty Dog, has the following to say on No Return, quote, "No Return is a roguelike survival mode designed to let players prove their mettle in randomized encounters and experience The Last of Us Part 2's combat in a fresh experience. The mode includes a host of playable characters to choose from, some playable for the first time in The Last of Us franchise, which you may have spotted in our trailer, who each come with their own traits to suit different playstyles." That sounds fucking awesome. Players will chart their own course on each run, choosing between various stealth and combat encounters that will pit you against a range of enemies, with unique twists that can add new, unexpected factors to any encounter. Each run will offer a new chance to decide what rewards you get after each encounter, how you spec out your character, and more. Unlock more characters, skins, and more as you progress to use in the mode. Customize your own runs, and compete on a global leaderboard as part of a daily run. We're excited to share more about No Return as we get closer to launch, End quote. Best of all, existing owners of the PS4 game will be able to upgrade to a digital version of the game for just $10, with the ability to import a previous save game from the PS4 to boot. While this is certainly a minor W that Naughty Dog was in desperate need of, fans of the multiplayer offering from 2013's The Last of Us called Factions remain left behind, wink wink, with no updates about the allegedly on ice project that is assumed to be the flagship of Sony's fledgling live service initiative. So I gotta say, I have a lot of mixed feelings about The Last of Us Part 2. When I first played it, I initially stepped away from it thinking that I didn't like it. Since then, it's been 3 years. I've had time to marinate and really analyze my thoughts and think about it and go back and watch clips. I mean, if you guys know anything about my favorite games, The Last of Us Part 1, or like whatever, The Last of Us Remastered from back in the day, the first game, that's probably one of my favorite games ever made. Like, that's a top 4 favorite game for me. Easily a top 10 favorite game. I was fucking obsessed with that game when I was in high school. And I didn't even have a PlayStation 3. I wanted to play it so bad. I would just go watch YouTube videos about the game because I was so obsessed with it and I thought it was so awesome. And then when Part 2 came out, and it obviously had like a very controversial story, I didn't really know how to feel about it. I didn't really get a lot of what the story was doing. I didn't really understand a lot of the decisions at the time that they like moved in. But I think as I've gotten older, but as I've had time to think about things, what I can say is that I really want to play the game again and just see how I feel. Because I think that the game has problems. I think it's too long, and I think that it's structured strangely, and I think that hurts it. I'm excited. I don't know if I'm more excited for like the cut content thing or the new no return mode, because both of those sound really crazy and really cool. But maybe the cut content's gonna like do like if you're familiar with Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, the director's cut of that movie makes it into like a completely different movie. Same thing with the Snyder cut of the Justice League. It makes it into like a few changes from the director can just do a lot of good for a product. So I'm super excited. I'm totally gonna buy this, and I'll probably buy Part 1 too, and I'll play them both back to back, and just get balls deep in The Last of Us again because I love The Last of Us. It is. I have to quote the great Gene Park here to say that The Last of Us is one of the great Western myths, especially with the explosion of The Last of Us on HBO and how just it's completely penetrated the mainstream. I can't express how important The Last of Us is, and how excited I am to get back into this. But I will say, and also I do want to comment on No Return. I think No Return sounds like amazing. It sounds like exactly what I want. Just like being able to play combat in a very gamey, a very video game way. To play The Last of Us Part 2's combat in a very video game type experience sounds incredible to me. And I can't wait to just like mess around with that. And this notion that like every character has like different like, you know, skills and perks and whatnot that make it more fun and make you kind of cater to different play styles. Like, that sounds sick, dude. That sounds dope. I hope we get to play as Hunter Joel somehow. That would be so crazy. I would shit myself. But yeah, I'm super pumped. $10, dude, I'm in there. I'm in there like swimwear. Funnily enough, when the game first came out back in 2020, I actually was so disappointed with The Last of Us at the time, The Last of Us Part 2, that I sold my copy. I bought it physically. I sold it back to GameStop in order to buy Ghost of Tsushima, because that came out months after The Last of Us Part 2. And I just got rid of the game because I was like, I'm never going to touch this again. Like, this isn't what I wanted from a sequel. Since then, I've matured, and I've learned to understand that if a story is not to my liking, what does the story have to say that could teach me something? So I've tried to do that, and I think I've come away with a few important things about the game. And I'm super excited to jump back into it, and I'm going to play it again. I'm going to get balls deep. It's going to be awesome. But got to talk about factions. because Factions is hauntingly absent from all of this, and I'm putting on my speculation hat here, and I'm putting on my tinfoil conspiracy theory hat, and I just feel like this game was always supposed to come out. This game was always supposed to come out. I have a theory that somehow Factions was going to be packaged into this game, and it's just conspicuously not here. And I think it's self-evident that that's the case. Like, this roguelike survival mode was probably... like, that was probably somehow entwined in Factions. But, like, look, I don't know. It's just kind of my gut feeling to say that, like, I think it's clear that that's the case, that Factions was somehow meant to be packaged into this. Or maybe it was, like, maybe it was, like, an option where it's, like, you could buy Factions by itself if you wanted to. Or you could buy The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered as a $70 package and get all this shit. Which people would probably do. Because of how big the HBO show is, and since The Last of Us Part 1 just came out, like, it would probably work totally fine. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on with Factions. We need answers as to what's going on with Factions. Neil Druckmann was on the stage at I don't remember what it was. It was something. He said the game is coming out this year. They're going to talk about it this year. They're going to show it to us this year. And then Bungie came in. Bungie somehow shut that shit down. It's totally different now. And it's on ice and allegedly canceled. We have no idea what's going on with Factions. And it doesn't bode well for the future of Sony's live service initiative that they are putting copious resources and money and time and effort and energy and manpower into. The fact that Bungie, who is like clearly not doing well in their own right with their own game, there has to be shit going on over there. So, yeah. Nonetheless, with all that being said, this is a W for Naughty Dog. I've seen a lot of haters on social media, like, hating on this. I hate haters. I hate them. If you don't think this is cool, and if you don't think this is consumer friendly to offer a new game mode, to offer new cut content, to already, like, people that already own the game, and all they have to do is pay $10 to gain access to that, you're crazy. That's a good deal. And yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm in there day one. I'm in there like swimwear. I can't wait to play this. I'll probably buy part 1, 2. I'll probably have a great time. But nonetheless, that's where I'm at. And that is that piece of news. It's very interesting because Factions is clearly, like, just absent from this thing that it was obviously intended to be a part of. And I have no evidence to support that other than, like, my gut and my analytical kind of thoughts about what this product was intended to be initially. And finally, number 3. Website Game Rant has confirmed the following, quote, PS Plus premium games for December 2023 have leaked. Number 1, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, which is a PS1 game. Thrillville, which is a PSP game. And Thrillville Off the Rails, which is another PSP game. These are all coming to PlayStation Plus Premium, which is the highest tier that offers you backwards compatibility into Sony's old games. It's the only way you can get backwards compatibility, which is crazy. You can't just... well, no, that's not true. I take that back. You can buy the games a la carte, which is cool. Yeah, misspoke there. My bad. Anyways, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command is a third-person action shooter platforming game based on the cartoon of the same name, where players control Buzz, adventure across various fictional planets, and beat a villain to the end of each level. It was developed by Traveler's Tales. Meanwhile, Thrillville, a theme park management game and one of the most synonymous titles with the genre, with Off the Rails serving as a sequel to the original title. I've never heard of any of these games, and I've never played any of these games, but I like retro stuff, and I think it's cool. More stuff's coming to PlayStation Premium. I don't really know who's asking for Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. I don't know if that's a cult classic. I don't know if Thrillville's a cult classic. I have no idea. But nonetheless, PlayStation Premium, getting new content, that's cool, I guess. And that is all I have for the numbered news items this week of PlayStation news. We are going to conclude with what I've been playing. And let me tell you, boys, I got a girthy list. First, I want to full-throatedly declare that I platinumed 2 seminal titles in just 1 week. Remedy's Alan Wake 2, which is a 30-hour platinum, not a big deal, but definitely a fun platinum nonetheless. And From Software's Elden Ring, which was I don't know, that was a 60-hour platinum or something like that. It's not really that hard. All you got to do is play the game once, but the game itself is difficult, so you got to keep that in mind. It's a difficult platinum because the game is difficult. In addition to this, I finally girded up my loins and waded deep into Boletaria with Bluepoint's Demon's Souls remake, the gold standard remake of the 2009 PS3 classic, given to us by From Software initially. Alan Wake 2 is ultimately one of the craziest and most fucking insane narrative experiences I have ever had in a video game. On top of being a gameplay experience that won't be replicated until Remedy gives us its inevitable sequel. So Alan Wake 2, I gotta say, it shamelessly offers an unwieldy and uneven combat experience, yet it also managed to give me some of the most immersive, cerebral, and engaging gameplay experiences that I have ever had. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that in order to get the Platinum Trophy for this title, Remedy put me in a position where I was asking my wife to help me solve a college-level algebra problem to open a chest in-game. We were crouched at, the entertainment center in front of the TV, fucking with paper and shit, and we were, doing math for a video game. A video game has never made me do that. It was awesome. I loved it. And then on top of this game is scary as shit, and it has a lot of, well-timed and well-done jump scares. And it's also just kind of horrifying sometimes. Dude, there's a level where you go into a nursery home, and, I felt like I was playing Outlast, bro. I was fucking scared shitless that whole time during that whole level. And it was awesome. And I'm kind of, traditionally a scaredy cat. I've only recently, opened myself up to fucking horror. And I gotta say, they crushed it, dude. Alan Wake 1 wasn't really a horror game. I'm sure you know that if you played the game. It's, kind of spooky, but it is not by any means horrifying. Alan Wake 2 is fucking horrifying sometimes. And, dude, it is so good, and it is so awesome. It reminds me of True Detective, especially in the initial parts of the game. The performances are awesome. Who plays Alan Wake? What's his name? What is his name? I'm going to look that up right now. His name is Ilkka Ville. He's Finnish. Dude, I gotta say, Alan Wake's voice is ASMR perfect. Dude, if I could somehow get every audiobook ever made voiced by Ilkka Ville, I would do that in a heartbeat, dude. I love Alan Wake's voice. It's perfect. And just the whole experience of you playing a story that supposedly the character Alan Wake has written, and he's narrating it while you're going through it in a gameplay experience is just so fucking meta and cool, and dude, it's awesome, man. And on top of that, Sam Lake, dude, Sam Lake in this game is fucking amazing. His performance is a combination of Willem Dafoe and Keanu Reeves. I almost said John Wick. Keanu Reeves, dude, it is so awesome. He's the director of the game. He wrote the game, and he cast himself as one of the main characters in the game. It's just Hideo Kojima energy, but a little more less humble braggy, because you know how Hideo Kojima has the written by Hideo Kojima, directed by Hideo Kojima, produced by Hideo Kojima, fucking conceived by Hideo Kojima, all of this. It's not the same thing here, but it's kind of the same thing, and it's auteurish on a wonderful level, and we gotta protect Sam Lake, bro. Because Alan Wake 2 is just the machination and the love child of Sam Lake, and you can feel that in a way that only really Hideo Kojima and maybe Ken Levine can rival. Hideo Kojima, of course, being the creator of the Metal Gear Solid series, and Ken Levine, of course, being the creator of the BioShock series. But look, dude, Alan Wake 2, it is crazy. The plot and the storytelling of the game is really good, top tier good. I will say that the plot gets just absolutely convoluted, and it gets impossible to follow. Kind of similar to how I haven't played Control, but apparently Control's the same way, where it's just there's so much information and shit in the story that it's impossible to keep track of. Alan Wake 2 is completely off the rails, and there's no way you're going to be able to follow the plot, and that's the whole point, dude. It's crazy. And look, while I personally believe that some of the 10 out of the 10s that the game has received is a bit much, I must say that this game is so lovable and genius that I honestly think that we should just throw caution to the wind and do whatever the hell we can to make sure it's successful. It's that good, it's that original, and it's really that important. Sam Lake and Remedy have just shown up once again to prove that they are not only the most cerebral developer of video games, but that they're also visionaries for what video games are capable of being. And the lake is now a loop, and the ocean is now a spiral. And let me tell you, I never dreamed that we'd get this game. I have a very specific memory of playing Alan Wake 1. Like, I just happened to go to GameStop for some reason, and I don't really know why this was the case, but they had a demo booth set up, and it was just playing, like, you could just play Alan Wake. It wasn't like a demo version of the game. It was like dead ass just the game. On a demo booth where you stood up and you had the controller like attached to the TV and shit. And I played like 4 hours of Alan Wake, just like in this GameStop, completely loitering, didn't buy a single thing. And then I made my mom drive me to like 2 or 3 different Blockbusters. This was back, when did that, 2010, that's when Alan Wake came out. We drove to a bunch of different Blockbusters and I rented the game and I played it and I loved it. And I never dreamed that we'd get a sequel to it. And I thought it was just kind of a one-off, and I was like, wow, that's a cool experience. I love that. And I think the initial Alan Wake in a lot of ways is really original. It's really unique. I think the gameplay is highly underrated, and the combat is highly underrated. And it's such an interesting game just to know that it was clearly this open world that got pulled apart and repurposed into this very linear single-player game. But nonetheless, Alan Wake 2 is awesome. And you guys got to soak it up because games like this are few and far between. And it's going to be a while, I think. Maybe not that long. Maybe like 2 or 4 years until Remedy's next game when they do Control 2. I got to go back and play Control 1 after this. Control is a very big part of this game. And that's not really a spoiler to say because you're going to know that in like the first hours of the game. If you read shit, you're going to know that like Control is a big deal in this game. And I got to go back and play it. And yeah, I also got to say, Game Awards, another note on the Game Awards, the actor who played Saga Anderson in the Game Awards got nominated instead of Sam Lake and instead of the actor that played Alan Wake. What his name? We just talked about this. Ikla. Oh God. Ilka Villi. I don't know how to say that. It's really strange because it's like an I. Maybe it's Ika. I don't know. Whatever. They were nominated and she was nominated, and I think she does like a fantastic job in the game, and I think she like plays Saga Anderson really well. Saga Anderson's performance is like kind of a little disconcerting to me, and that's kind of the whole point. I think is that she just kind of has like this naivety to her character that's a little like I don't know, it's a little unsettling in some ways, but yeah, look, Alan Wake 2, gotta play it, must play. You must play Alan Wake 1 before you play this. But Alan Wake 2 is goated, bro. You gotta dip in. You gotta try it out because there's nothing like it. It's awesome. And then on top of getting the platinum in Alan Wake 2, I also finally went back and got the platinum for Elden Ring. So just to give you some context, I basically got to the point before. I don't want to spoil it. There's a moment that you do an important thing when you get to the top of a mountain, and it basically initiates like the end game, and it takes you to like this crazy sky ruin place, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you play the game. It's not really a spoiler. I basically stopped there because once Shadow of the Erdtree got announced, I was just like, I'm gonna come back to this whenever Shadow of the Erdtree gets released, because then I can do Shadow of the Erdtree, the DLC, and then I can just move on and finish the game, and it'll be a nice order of operations. Well, I got COVID, so I was fucking locked up in a room, and I wanted at least wanted to just get some platinums done that I had been meaning to go back to and meaning to get. So I finally decided that I was just going to do Elden Ring, and I was going to get it done and just finish it. So I did. And I don't want to spend like a shit ton of time talking about Elden Ring because like everyone has talked about how amazing it is. But just allow me this. Elden Ring is easily one of the greatest video games ever made. It is the grand and crazy adventure that you always wanted to go on when you were a kid, when you were pretending to shoot Kamehameha beams out of the end of your stick that you found in your backyard. And on top of this, it's hard as balls. It pushes you to play well, and it pushes you to get to the next grace, to beat the next boss, or face the consequences if you don't. And that's ultimately what like video games are, dude. That's what they were when they first were conceived in the arcades. They're about overcoming challenges. Video games demand things of you. They require agency in order for you to progress. And like I just get pissed off at the whole difficulty thing when people have the audacity to try to tell From Software how to make their game. It frustrates me. But yeah. I really didn't have a problem with the game. I'm just going to be totally honest. I was playing a Dex Ent build, which is probably one of the strongest builds in PvE in Elden Ring. You just use the Moonveil Katana, and then you use like the Carrion Regal Scepter, which is the best staff. You just cast spells when you're far away, and then when people get too close, you just use the Moonveil Katana, Transient Moonlight, you do the slash, you like fucking one-shot everything. It's awesome. So I breezed through this game, dude. Like, I really don't think... There's times where Elden Ring is hard. Like, there definitely is. There's times where I got my shit pushed in. But it's not really that hard. Especially, dude, if you play an Ent build, you can get Comet Azure. And you can get a special tier in your, like, Flask of Wondrous Physic or whatever the fuck it's called. And you can drink it, and then you can just cast a Kamehameha that does an insane amount of damage with Comet Azure that will just nuke a boss, bro. Like, you can literally just walk in, pop your flask, pull out your carry. Well, what I did actually is I got the Lusat staff, put that in my right hand, put the jellyfish shield in my left hand, and I would use the jellyfish like proc. I would use the ability of that shield to give me more attack damage, and then I'd pop my flask, and then I'd use the crab, the whale crab, so that if I took damage, it wouldn't hurt that bad. And then I would just nuke a boss. And I literally, dude, there was many times where I just walked into a room and I literally one-shot at a boss. Like, I did that probably 30 times by the end of my... So I totally cheesed the game. But like the game let me cheese it. And that's kind of the genius of Elden Ring, is that the build diversity is so good, it's so replayable, it's so approachable. It's awesome, dude. It's awesome. And yeah, I compel you to play Elden Ring. Like, I compel you to play Elden Ring. I don't care if Souls isn't your thing. It's just like Elden Ring is just that important. And it's just the magnum opus of what the Souls-like is. It's From Software. It's everything they've been doing since Demon Souls back in 2009, dude. And I'm experiencing that now as I'm going through Demon Souls right now. It's everything that they've been doing, and it's just the culmination of all of it. It's the best systems. It's really the easiest one because you have graces, and like it's just you can you can't really get stuck in this game. You can just run away and level up and go grind and go get some stuff, and then you can come back and just absolutely destroy the boss that you were stuck on. It's amazing, man. It's just a really remarkable game, and you gotta at least test it out and try it out. And the lore is awesome too. The lore in Elden Ring, obviously pioneered by George R.R. Martin with Hideo Taka Miyazaki. He had some influence there as well. It's super important. It's super awesome. You got to play Elden Ring. You got to at least try it out. And then the Platinum Trophy for this game is fun as hell to obtain. Like, all you need to do to get the Platinum, it's very easy. There's a reason why it has a 10% Platinum rate. All you got to do is just beat all the bosses, and they get all the legendary items, like the legendary armaments, the legendary talismans, the legendary spells, and stuff like that. And you're good. That's literally all you have to do, unless I'm forgetting something. It's very simple. I'm contemplating seriously going to buy the PS4 game, the PS4 version of the game, which is apparently the superior version of the game when you play it on PS5. And just get the platinum of that too, because like, why not? It's awesome. I'll go back and play Elden Ring someday. Dude, when I get the portal, I'll just do it when I'm laying in bed. It's awesome. Yeah. And yes, I started as the prisoner class, and I kept my prisoner helmet on for the entire playthrough because the prisoner helmet's sick. And I can't wait for Shadow of the Erdtree. I can't explain how awesome Elden Ring is. If you haven't played it, you gotta play it. You gotta try it out. If you don't like it, that's fine, but you gotta know that I love it. And I just think it's super special. And I'm clearly not the only one. And then finally, to bring us home, wanted to talk about Blue Point's Demon Souls remake. Because once I platinumed Elden Ring, I had to chase the high. You know what I'm saying? So I jumped back in to Demon Souls. I've tried to play this game like 3 times. I bought it kind of back when I got my PS4, or sorry, when I got my PS5. I never really gave it a fair shot. I would just kind of get in and be like, I'm kind of bored, and then I would get out and go play something else. This time around, it seems I'm hooked, and I'm just kind of committed to trying to get the platinum. I'm playing a strength build, which I haven't really done in a FromSoft game. I played a strength build in Bloodborne. That's not true. But that was like a kind of a hybrid build. This is a pure strength build. And yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. This, like, if nothing else, Demon Souls is definitely not the best Souls-like that From Software has ever made by any stretch of the imagination. But what it's important about it is that it is the first Souls-like that has clearly just made this, like, meteoric impact on the video game industry. Like, you have games like Lies of P, which many people have considered like the best game of the year. That's not from Software. That is totally just a new genre of video game that they completely pioneered, and it's really important. And then on top of that, Bluepoint's remake is just perfect. From a fidelity standpoint, from a performance standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, like, just everything is like really solid, really fluid. There's a few things that they could have refined. Like, I really hate the world tendency system. It's stupid. It always has been stupid. And they had the opportunity to, like, get rid of some of the bullshit, or at least try to make it better, and they didn't do that here, which sucks, but whatever. There's a reason why From Software never brought back world tendency, is because it's dumb mechanic. But yeah, I'll keep you posted about Demon Souls. I'm enjoying it. It's really strange because, like, Demon Souls is the only From Software game where the journey between the bosses and the journey of getting to the bosses is more difficult than the bosses themselves. The bosses in this game are weak sauce. The journey to try to get back to the bosses and the distance between the checkpoints and the enemies that you fight along the way are what make this game challenging. And that's I think that's an interesting approach to game design that From Software hasn't gone back to, because I guess they figured it out in Dark Souls and people loved it and it was fine. But nonetheless, I want to say that it is interesting that that everyone went back, and this is the only game that's kind of like that, from what I understand about From Software Souls-likes. While this is a girthy list indeed, and I appreciate that you humored me, it's always nice to be able to put time on the sticks playing games that you know are important. So wanted to get that out and just tell you guys what I've been playing this week, especially since I'm having COVID again. I've had it 3 times now, which is really wild. I've gotten 4 shots because I'm in the military, and, like, that's just kind of what I have to do. They make you get shots a lot. But I've gotten like 4 shots, bro. I just got COVID 3 times, so yeah. Not trying to make a political statement either way. I think you should get a vaccine because vaccines are scientific miracles and marvels, and they are good for society. I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just saying, I got 4 shots. I've got COVID 3 times. I don't like that. Anyways, boys, that is going to conclude this week's episode of the DualShock Debrief, a weekly PlayStation analysis video. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to try to keep this going. I have a very busy daytime job. I'm married, got a household to tend to. We own a home. I'm busy, so I'm going to literally do everything in my power to stick to this weekly upload schedule, try to get this video out every Saturday at a mysterious time. But nonetheless, if you made it this far, appreciate you tuning in. And that's all I got for this week. This is Hansen with Ent Media, out.